This week in Arsenal, Kai Havertz and Germany exit the Euros after losing to Spain. Arsenal are linked to a mystery German player. The Gunners reportedly advance in signing Riccardo Califiori, and we discuss the psychology of penalty shootouts. Let's get into it.
Maybe we'll have a good surprise for you.
Boys,
Welcome
can I
in.
just sorry, Sash. Before you speak, I just want to speak for everyone and say what a beautiful intro, and we thank AI for the many Arsenal-related images that it's created there. It gets me every time. I love the background music, and it's just beautiful. It's good vibes.
But Sham's talent also.
I knew the prompts to put in there.
So Sham's amazing composing talent,
In hindsight, I probably would have made all those by hand, or not by hand, but like myself, if I'd known the amount of energy I was using to make that intro. So that's I've stopped the AI game since I found out that. But yeah. So glad everyone's enjoying it because we're not doing it again. But welcome into This Week in Arsenal, episode 63. We're coming to you live right after Spain defeated Germany in extra time, which I couldn't believe they were going to do after they took off Yamal and Williams. But anyway, as always, I'm Sham, also known as Lamine Shamal, if that works. I don't know. We'll see. You can follow me on Twitter at Shamsdale. I'm joined as ever by the main man himself, Sash at LT Arsenal. Sash, how are you doing? Good, sir.
Doing all right. A bit disappointed that Germany
so
went out, obviously, since I've been living in Germany for the last year and a half. Is it still delayed?
It's a little delayed.
Is it still a lag?
Slightly.
No,
you're fine.
Let special guest go.
Yeah.
It's fine now.
Yeah, it's fine now. Wow, we were off to a terrific start. And with us is our illustrious guest. You know this man as, one of the many faces of Arsenal Twitter. Lee Gunner has painted him as, one of the proper gooners, the top gooners. And now he has and now you know him as the guy who really is an expert on the psychology of penalty shootouts, and we're looking forward to talking about that with him. But joining us is the one, the only AFC James. James, how you doing, man? It feels like a while since we've had you on here.
Yeah, as I say, as you both know, I believe I've been on a little 5-month hopping around the world, going across Asia, starting in Korea, ending in Japan, going everywhere in between. It was a good time. And then, as I say, it's good to be back. Good to be talking about Arsenal. And I've been enjoying myself. I've been hungry for some transfer news, and I think we've got some of that today. So hopefully we'll get into that later.
Yeah. We it feels like it feels like they waited just long enough until people's patience broke a little bit. I thought we were all a united front for most of June. And then I think within the last week, people are just like, okay, where are the fucking signings? It's been too long. And now that Italy are out, we've got something cooking. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about it. And looking forward to just jumping into some of these questions that Sash has put together for us.
Yeah, let's get into it straight away. I hope the lag has gone, or is it still there?
It's still there.
Oh no.
It's fine. It's like two.
Maybe you could start off with Califiori, Sham. I will just look to.
Sure, it's like 2 or 3 seconds. Yeah, but we'll just jump into Califiori. So, in the last couple days, James, the news has come out that we are advancing. Sounds like we are maybe on the cusp of finalizing a deal for Riccardo Califiori, who most people listening will know from his recent exploits for Italy in the Euros, starting, I think, kind of as that left center back in a back three. Really interesting player. Also, just went and had a hell of a season with Bologna, which I think is going under the radar a little bit with people. And I just kind of want to get your surface level thoughts first of all on bringing in a player like Calafiori and where you see him fitting in.
Well, naturally, I think with a lot of us, we were quite shocked when we heard this. It kind of, and for a while, I kept just hearing rumors about all sorts of players and just batting them to the side and dismissing them. And then, like, a few too many people jumped on this story, and I was thinking, is this like genuine interest? And I think it has reached the point where it is serious, and I believe the personal terms are pretty much agreed with him. Now, from what I hear, we're still quite a bit off agreeing with Bologna, but if it is the case that we have agreed personal terms with him, as I have very publicly said before, that is the most important step to signing a player. And once you've done that, Chelsea can come in, PSG can come in, and it doesn't matter because he already wants us. And Juventus, of course, could have come in, but they're broke. They have no money, and they tried to sign Douglas Luiz by offering 3-4 players. They are a joke of a team. But no, it was an interesting link to have, and I guess signing to seemingly be coming our way. At first, I was confused because I've always wanted a traditional left back, but I think it's quite obvious now that Arteta is looking for someone who can operate in more central areas. People will say, "Oh, we have Timber there, we have Kivior, we have Zinchenko," but truthfully, Kivior, as much as I like him, I don't think he's a title-winning left back. Zinchenko, we all know, has his flaws. Timber, I really like, but I think Timber is also there for his versatility. I don't think we necessarily signed Timber to be that inverted left back. I think he offers solutions, especially against a deep block. When we're trying to access central areas in much more tight games, he's a huge option. But I just think Arteta wants defense without weakness. And I think Calafiori offers that. And what he offers different to some of our other defenders is really aggressive and direct running from deep. And Gabriel and Saliba, for all their strengths, that is something they don't really have, is progressive dribbling. I think we're seeing more and more of it of Saliba, but obviously from central areas, it's a little bit more risky. So to have Calafiori be able to stride into midfield and disrupt an opponent's block, because this is where our weakness comes when we're playing against a mid block. We need to find a solution. So I feel Calafiori offers some of that. It still feels expensive, but once you consider his wages are a lot cheaper than, I guess, relative to his price, I think he does represent a good deal. And as I say, I've only watched him for a few days, but based on what I've seen of him, based on the profile, I see the sense, and I have reached the point with our transfers where it's not like, I guess, looking back to Nicolas Pepe, one of the highest profile misses from us, we were trying to outsmart the market. We overpaid for someone because Bayern dropped out from him. Now you look at that and think, why did that happen? It's because we were in 8th place, so we were trying to punch above our weight. Now we can essentially scout the whole market, and barring players already at top clubs like Musiala, etc., we can go for whoever. So I see no reason that we would go for him unless we were utterly convinced, especially at this price.
Yeah, Calafiori is obviously, a very new player to me as well. But I think, having gone back and, watched him during the Euros, obviously, and then, watched some more film of him during his time with Bologna and Roma, I think he's a really straightforward fit, right? Because, like you said, he has that really great carrying ability. And I think we need that out of midfield to, like you said, disrupt the mid block that we've had so much trouble with this last season. A lot of people, including the likes of James Horncastle, have called him the next John Stones for all intents and purposes. And I think that is a profile that we could do with. Really tough tackler, maybe a little bit aggressive, but I think that's something that Arteta can iron out. And yeah, he just seems to be, one of those no nonsense defenders that Arteta really does seem to have a fetish for at this point.
Also, just to hop onto your aggression point, that can be quite useful because,
Yeah.
for example, we're in situations where a team has even a low block, and we're trying to work out ways to that low block. When they make a clearance, if we can make that first challenge and get the first contact, win the duel as Arteta loves so much, then the opposition isn't settled, and then we can find opportunities rather than being passive, I guess, like some of our other defenders maybe, and waiting for the opportunity to come. Then we make the tackle, but then they've got 2 banks of 4 and we can't find any space in between them.
Yeah, and I just think that combined with I hate to kind of talk about the soft factors here, but the kind of like the aura around him, if that makes sense, right? The vibes wise, he makes sense as well. Yeah, and also I think he's got a really good switch, and yeah, I just think he fits in. And with on the Kivior point, I I hate saying this, but I think we're hitting the point with Kivior where it's probably not going to happen for him here, right? I
I
think
think the
he's kind
Bayern
of
game was indicative of that.
yeah, and also I think with Poland as well in the Euros match, he just wasn't, or sorry, not Euros match, but during the Euros, he just wasn't really that impressive, at least in my opinion. I think he's very much settled from being, maybe someone who could establish a place for themselves in the starting back four to kind of just being backup for, Gabriel and Tomiyasu. And I think he's probably behind Timber in the pecking order as well. So I think that probably is the person who's going to make way. And like you said, I think Timber is probably going to settle in more as a guy who rotates across the back four. Maybe he's someone who will invert from right back and be our answer to,
Also,
Caicedo.
sorry
Yeah,
to interrupt. On the topic of Timber, the guy's had an ACL injury. We don't know what's going to happen when he comes back. People take 18 to 24 months to come back properly. If we
Yeah.
really went into next season with Timber as our only genuine left back option, as our only option that we think we can win the title with this guy, then we're kind of waiting for ourselves to fail because, as we've said, Kivior is serviceable. And when we had Pablo Mari, he would have been absolute gold dust to us. And when we had the other guy who played in defence at the back end of the season before,
Don't mention
absolute
his
gold
name.
dust. But we don't now. We're at a different level. And to now make improvements, we've got to skim the market, basically. I know I keep taking the spotlight here, but the last thing I want to say is there is a lot of scrutiny on this transfer because Arteta essentially has got the whole summer and all of these transfers to fix the left-hand side. So if we do sign Califiori, if we do sign whoever, and we still have left-hand side problems next season, that is a problem because there's no reason for this to continue.
Yep. And, but before we bring Sash back in here, I think that is kind of an interesting thing to think about here, where how does Calafiori fix that left-hand side dynamic that we've kind of had issues with this past season, right? Because Calafiori is more of a guy who operates centrally. He's not really an overlapper like I think we've really needed. So maybe do we go from inverting on the left-hand side to inverting on the
Can
right?
he
And
play in the
then
Xhaka zones? Do you know what I
can he?
mean? When Xhaka played, like, he was between left back, left centre back, and left centre mid and making those progressive passes. Do you think, I'm not saying he is playing like Xhaka, but I'm saying Martinelli missed. It wasn't actually the season before. We didn't have a player overlapping. A lot of people think Martinelli needs someone to overlap. We don't. We need someone to find Martinelli with the passes and to operate in a more inside zone. It will be interesting if Calafiori can kind of take up those Xhaka positions and make those inside passes between the fullback and the centre back, because that's what we missed more than an overlapping. And Martinelli is best, from what we see at the moment, is isolating a fullback one-on-one. But at the moment, there's no one anywhere near him because when Havertz played left centre mid, there was just no synergy between them.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm not sure if Califiori is going to specifically operate in that zone, but I have heard this this suggestion that maybe Timber could be someone who could do that. But Sash, what are your thoughts on Califiori, and do you see him? How do you see him kind of contributing to revamping our left hand side dynamics?
So, firstly, I apologize if the lag is still going on. I hope it's a little bit better than before, but yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on with my internet today. I've tried the hotspot and the Wi-Fi, and yeah, it's just one of those days. But on Califiori, what I'd like to say is that I think he's a player who obviously helps us a lot in build up on that position. But I think the reason he's there is Arteta sees him as a guy who can do what Zinchenko does, but also defend. I think it's been for quite a while that we've always had some issue on that left hand side. Either the player there is not good enough defensively or he's not good enough on the ball. And he's not going to come back and immediately play at an incredible level. Like, at least I don't see that happening. He has to be, I think, eased in. So I think with Califiori, what you have is a player who can come right from game week one. I think he will make a huge impact. And in terms of fixing the left hand side, I think the primary issue with that left hand side was the central midfield position. I think things got a little bit better when Declan Rice was playing. But again, Declan Rice is a guy who carries the ball on that side. And as James said, I think what Martinelli needs is he needs guys who can beat a press and pass a football. And that's what you need to get the best out of Martinelli. Like, he doesn't need an overlapping player. He doesn't need like tons of support around him. He's a type of guy who can win a match on his own. It's about getting him into the best positions. And I think Califiori definitely fixes that issue to some extent. But what I would say is we definitely need to sign another central midfielder. There's no question in my mind about it. Of course, there's going to be debate on the profile of the player. Do we need someone who's a 6'8" hybrid, or do you want to sign a 8'10" hybrid? Someone like Words, like I thought he was really impressive today for Germany. And we will get on the topic of the mystery German player that we are linked with. Um, but yeah, I'm quite interested. I think the central midfield position is what will ultimately fix that left hand side. But Califiori, phenomenal addition. I think just like Ben White and Saliba, he has amazing anticipation. My only one slight concern, and it's not a concern because I don't know enough about him, is how good is he 1v1? Like, you guys brought the point about Kivior last season in the Champions League, uh, proving to be a bit of a liability against Bayern in that crucial duel that he had with Sane on a couple of occasions. So I don't know if Califiori is going to come in, and when you face the guys who are going to play on the flank, like it could be Rafinha, Sane, Dembele, could be Mbappe, depending on where he's playing for Real Madrid, Rodrigo. Yeah, you want a guy who can handle that type of player. And is Califiori that kind of player? I think he's better than Kivior, but time will tell how good he is 1v1. But for 40, 50 million, I think phenomenal buy. And Arteta has this obsession for these flexible defenders, if I might call it that way. But I think it's a very good obsession to have. If you can stack your squad with tons of players like that, you're never going to have a problem in the event of injuries defensively. So I welcome that signing, but let's see if we can get it over the line. But on that note, I want to use this time to bring the mystery German player into the equation. Obviously, there's been a lot of murmurs. It first started off with some clip from TikTok where someone said that a German footballer was looking for a particular car to be delivered in London. He was going to move after the Euros was over to Arsenal, apparently, even though they bleeped it out in the video. Our interpreters on Twitter have figured it out and have come to the conclusion that it's going to be Arsenal. So I want to ask you guys this question. Which German player do you think it is? And which German player do you want it to be? James, I will start with you.
I don't know. It's such a wild goose chase. If you remember that, do you remember the car when it said Isaac on? I think it was a Rolls Royce, had an Isaac number plate.
It was definitely him. It was definitely him.
That was prime Arsenal.
Well,
Prime Arsenal deadline day Twitter.
So right now, I'm not getting enticed by this. Like, the problem is as well, to me, there aren't that many players that it could be that would be super exciting. So Musiala, but it's not. It's not Musiala. You look down, Gundogan. Like, I don't think it would happen, but Gundogan I think would be really good. Wirtz, again, good option, but I don't see it happening. And then below that, you start thinking, hang on, who could it be? Because Kimmich has been touted, which would be fun, but again, weird. Does he fit? Doesn't really make sense. And I believe people have spoken about it as a market opportunity, but it's a market opportunity, but it's still is a weird transfer to me. And then also, Team News and Ticks, as we all know, said that it wasn't Kimmich, or he said a really reliable source said it wasn't Kimmich. So I have no idea who it is. And there was talk about he was so shocked about who it was because we've been keeping a dud secret. So I don't know, but what will be will be. Que sera, sera. I'll let it happen, and I will react whenever we find out who it is. I'm not speculating today.
I'll speculate. I think
You
it's
wouldn't pick
Adeyemi.
Sane if it was Sane?
You think it's who? Mustafi?
Adeyemi.
Yeah. But I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be. It's so
Yeah.
underwhelming.
I see, but that's why I think it might be someone like him, because Adeyemi is, the last time we saw him, he was bricking it against Real Madrid in the Champions League final. I got cooked for saying that a player like that might be what we're missing. So maybe this is selfish on my part. Maybe I just want to be vindicated. But I think that player makes sense because we are, outside Martinelli, missing raw pace. That being said, I don't think Adeyemi is the player I would want necessarily. Feels like too much of a project.
What would he offer against the settled defense? I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean,
but do we need a guy who can play against the settled defense? Like, do we need a guy who can play against the settled defense? Or do we just need another?
No, but we beat big teams last season. We didn't beat teams that sat back against us. And I suppose mid-blocks were a problem. So if we can have two in-behind threats, but Havertz is just as much an in-behind threat in those type of games because of his movement. I don't know. Yeah. I really don't see it.
Yeah, I wish Team News and Ticks at least revealed the name. Like, I would have taken that with him caveating it and saying, like, this isn't my usual source. But yeah, I mean, who I'd want it to be is definitely Musiala, but I don't think that's realistic this summer. Maybe next summer when his contract is down to 1 year with Bayern Munich, and the reports coming out of Germany suggest that maybe he's not very interested in signing an extension with them. We'll see what happens. I definitely think guys like Musiala and Wirtz are unfortunately out of our reach this summer. But yeah, it's really interesting. I like the idea of a mystery player, but if it's going to be someone underwhelming, then it'll be disappointing. Sash, who do you think it is?
Definitely not Mesut Ozil. Definitely not him. I think he's too busy bodybuilding these days. And if this is Ozil things, I'm sorry, my friend, but he's finished. So
we can't bring Ozil back. He's so jacked now. There's no kicking him out of the club if we bring him back this time.
He can be the center forward, though. He can finally
completely natural transformation.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Okay, my guess is that it's Leroy Sané. I think it's my guess.
I'd enjoy that.
And this is based on the fact that he has like 1 year left on his contract with Bayern. So I don't know. He might want to come back to the Premier League. And apparently his family lives in England, and he keeps making frequent trips from Germany to England. So maybe it could be him. Who knows? It might be him. But I'd like for it to be words. Like, I fell in love with him today after his cameo. I thought he was so good. He just reminds me so much of Ramsey, the way he just like releases the ball and dashes forward. Like, I want a guy like that at Arsenal. It was supposed to be Emil Smith-Rowe, but seems like he's fallen out of favor with Arteta. So I would like someone like Wirtz. I think he can get considerable output from midfield.
Can I be really annoying and oppose just the single point you made about Smith-Rowe? I don't think he's fallen out of favour with Arteta. I just don't think he is the player that our fans wished he was. He was a very, very good player before his injury or before his numerous injuries when we were in 8th place, but it's a lot easier to shine in 8th place. He also, that season, people look at the numbers, he well exceeded his expected goals. He had like 4 expected goals that season, and everything he touched turned to gold. The same happened with Martinelli last season, actually. Martinelli's XG was a lot lower. Now, I still think Martinelli is a good player, but that's why people's expectations jumped so high when he was on a natural trajectory, which wasn't as high as Saka's, because not every youngster is as special as Saka. But people went, all right, 15 goals, and now he got 6. He did underperform last season, but in reality, it should have been like 7, 10. Hopefully, if he has a good season, then he can kick on and get 13 this season. Foden, massive overperformer of his XG last season, so we'll see this season. I don't think he'll be anywhere near the numbers he got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I take your point. It's just that with Emil Smith-Rowe, I feel like Arteta had a lot of chances to actually play him last season, even in the run-in. Like there was always a scope to play him, but he didn't use him. And I don't know. I just feel like I don't know if it's a falling out of Arteta's given up, but I think there is a sense of acceptance that one of ESR or Fabio Vieira have to leave the club. And for me, Smith-Rowe has not shown enough in terms of his overall play in midfield. Like, he obviously has a lot of nice moments in and around the box. Like, he's a wonderful player to watch. But as a midfielder, like, I feel like his passing range is so limited. Like, I understand that there can be different types of midfielders, but still, I've never seen a situation where Smith-Rowe picked the ball up, played a nice diagonal to spread the play. It just seems to be so like one-dimensional in terms of he just wants to get the ball, play it forward, run. But I think to survive in Arteta's team, you need to offer a bit more in midfield, and that's the way I'm seeing it as of now. But happy to obviously be proven wrong. Like in preseason, maybe Smith-Rowe comes a completely different player. Let's see. But yeah, for now, I just cannot see it. Like I just cannot see him being in the team next season. So interesting to see who that player is, and it'll be funny if we end up with no one, and it'll go down in like Arsenal Twitter folklore as one of those moments where our fan base jumped the gun. It's happened many times, like right from the time when DRB told someone in the mosque apparently that Benzema or Rooney was signing. So this can be added to that long list of things that have not happened.
Yeah, I think it's very likely that this leads
but I
to
also-
nothing. Oh, sorry. Oh, I think it's very likely
No,
that
go
this
ahead.
leads to Sash. The lag's back. I think it's very likely that this leads to nothing. I wouldn't be shocked if Tina and other people just basically came out and said, "Oh, my source told me that things have fallen through, yada yada yada." But Sane is the most realistic here, like you said, just because he's a player who's worked with Arteta before. I think that point you made about him having family in England is very interesting, and on top of that, he's kind of hitting that point where he feels more attainable now, right? And he's 28. I know someone mentioned Sane's wages here being an issue, and I do think that's something to consider because this would be his last big contract, so to speak. But yeah, I think all in all, Sane is probably the guy that we'd most look to get because we are in need of a wide forward who has some end product to them, and that is Sane. Despite maybe a couple underwhelming performances for the German national team in recent times, but yeah. So just my thoughts there.
I think we have completely lost Sash. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything. I think we've completely lost him. So I guess that's a segue into the next section.
Yeah, I think let's just go ahead and do that. Sash, are you there? Can you hear us? I
Yeah, I can
see
hear
you,
you. I can
but
hear you guys perfectly.
okay. Okay, cool. Just making sure. So, speaking of Arteta, he made this comment. I think I might need Sash to be the one to expound on this because I only saw this in passing. But Arteta was asked what we needed to do in order to go from second to first in the Premier League. And Arteta kind of had a comment where he basically said, "Well, let's just focus on getting 114 points, and we'll go from there." Um, I'll go to you first. What do you make of those comments? He also said something to the effect of, we have to improve our efficiency in the box, among other things. Sash, if you want to kind of jump in with the quote unquote among other things, let me know. But yeah, what do you make of those comments from Arteta, and you know how do you personally see Arsenal bridging the gap between them and City coming into the next season? Is it a matter of just increasing our efficiency in the box and signing someone who can score goals, maybe overperform their XG? Is it a matter of just beating the mid block more often and not really worrying, about maybe bigger matches that we're playing? What do you think is the solution there?
I think obviously it's a combination of issues. I think beating the mid block is an important point because we beat the bad teams, we beat the really good teams, and we seem to have a problem against those teams that are just about good enough where they've got the quality, but also they are also well coached. And that seems to be our Achilles heel at the moment. But truthfully, I think the solution is a little bit simpler than is needed to be portrayed in interviews. It's just having enough options that if a player does get into a bad patch of form, you can take them out of the team. Because this is what Man City do. Man City, if De Bruyne is not fully fit, if De Bruyne is not fully firing, if Doku, if Foden, these guys, if there is something not 100% about them, unless they're Haaland, to be honest, it's only Haaland at the moment who's basically completely rotation proof. Guardiola just takes them out of the team. So the problem was last season, we go through patches of spells, and all that happened actually, our XG during that period was fine. We were still creating chances, but Saka's confidence, Martinelli's confidence, and I think Nketiah's confidence up front were just not there. So during that period, we were taking shots, but what XG doesn't really account for, one is variance. You can be unlucky, but also I think because of the confidence, we were taking shots and not believing they were going to go in, which is why Jesus, which is why Havertz will historically underperform, because we had a period of low confidence, and that we've got a young team as well. These players aren't like Haaland, where if they miss one, they'll score the next three. So yes, there are some tactical nuances that we can get into, but ultimately it's about recognizing when there's a period that we're going to struggle with and being able to make changes. But at the moment, what we did, we struggled, and then Nketiah comes in, or someone comes in who couldn't really have the desired effect and couldn't change the game enough as much as we wanted to. So that's what I'd say. I'd say it's largely just down to having different profiles and being able to take someone out of the team if they need to, rather than playing players into the ground. Because I suppose that's the other thing, is the players were fatigued during Christmas time. And if we could have rotated better, then ideally that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I think that kind of reminds me of a really not reminds me. I think it leads me to kind of an interesting point regarding the reaction that the Arsenal fan base make towards the idea of signing more depth, right? It always feels like we're talking about how, every season, why are we just playing Saliba and Gabriel every game? Why does Saka not have someone to rotate with him? Why is it that when Jesus gets hurt, we don't have anyone else to play there? Why don't we have as many midfielders, so on and so forth? So, I think it's interesting to note that, because kind of one section of the fan base, I feel, in the aftermath of this Califiori conversation, has really reacted almost just to say what happens to Gabriel. And I don't think that's the right question. right? It's less about replacing Gabriel or where Calafiori is going to play in the back line on a consistent basis, but it's more about having that collection of reliable talent to to kind of build your foundation on. Look at City, right? They have Diaz, Stones, Ake, Akanji, Gavardiol, Lewis, Walker, right? They have so many reliable defenders that when one goes down, it's fine. And Guardiola's rotating through them every single game. It feels like every week, City are starting a different back four, right?
And
And so,
even sorry to interject, but even during the running, so there were really huge games that City needed to win, and
yeah,
he's playing Akanji and Ake centre back, I think it was,
I
and
think so. I think he did that.
people will be like, hang on, why isn't he playing Diaz? If you have a group of players that are at that level, and that's the idea with Timber White, you turn around and we would go, I actually don't know who can start, and that's the luxury. And in that instance, then you can rotate players based on the game. So then, if we need someone in left centre back who's going to really probe at a deep defence, then we can play Califiori. If we're playing a serious game where they've got big strikers and where we cannot concede, otherwise we're gonna lose the game, then you play Gabriel. So you need different answers to solutions, and people will assume that just means up front. It doesn't. It means literally in every position, and just having that unpredictability and variability is so important.
Yep. And if we were to play a team that has a lockdown defensive left back that we think Saka is going to struggle with, we can play White, who's going to do the overlap and combine with Saka and Odegaard the right hand side. If we feel like Saka is going to have an easier day, then maybe we can play Timber at right back, and he can invert next
for
to Rice.
example, a mid block where we need to access the centre of the pitch more, then we can play Timber because we know he's more comfortable in central areas.
Yep, exactly. So it's just about having those options and really being able to turn your team into a Swiss Army knife to deal with all those certain, inevitabilities and situations. So, it's just really interesting to kind of see how people acknowledge that that's something we need to do, but then when we take the steps to address it, people aren't necessarily excited about it. But Sash, what are your thoughts? Do you think it's just a matter of buffing out the squad and putting in more talent, like James and I have talked about, or do you think there's something else that we need to do to, like Arteta said, get 114 points and make sure that we win the league?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with what you guys said. I hope the lag is not too bad now, but yeah, completely agree with what you guys were saying. But I do think there's multiple ways in which you can improve your squad. One way is when you sign a very good player, someone who was previously spearheading your team now plays on the bench, like Gabriel Jesus, right? He's effectively been replaced by Kai Havertz, and now Jesus is a really good squad player who can play out wide and centrally. So I think we want to have a balance between signing these types of squad players, but also signing a couple of really good players who can slot right into the starting 11. I think there's definitely the need for one forward and one midfielder and eight who to play on the left eight position. I think we need two guys who can come in and start over there. And when you sign guys like this, what it does is it anyway ends up improving your squad, because last season, if someone like Jorginho and Partey was starting at crucial points, they now become squad players because you have Rice at 6 and you have the new 8 playing. So I think we're in a really good place, to be honest. Like, it's insane. Like, I could never imagine Arsenal would be in such a good place, like, since I started supporting the club. But yeah, it's like, I mean, we can approach this window in many ways. Like, we can have a not so great window, and I think we can still win the league. Like, that's how good we are, and that's how well coached we are, that year on year there's progression. And of course, players go through dips. We spoke about Martinelli maybe not having the greatest of last seasons, but I really think that he can again get back to his level that he was in 2022 when he hit like 15, 16 open play goals in the league. So I definitely see us being right up there, and I'm sure we'll sign at least 2 or 3 good players, and that will definitely help us improve the squad and take that next step. And last season, we experienced a lot of new things for the first time, like being in a title race till the last week. being in the Champions League quarterfinals. I think we're only going to learn from those experiences and be better. So, I mean, irrespective of what happens, even if Arsenal don't sign the players that I specifically want, I still think they will go and do a good job. And I think we'll be really happy at the end of next season. That's my feeling.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see what we're going to do. And we're coming up on 40 minutes, so we talked about doing a little bit of an abridged episode so that everyone could enjoy the Euros football. So I want to take us to kind of the last subject for the pod, which is I think it's funny that we were originally planning on doing this on Tuesday, and then things got postponed. And right before Tuesday, on Monday night, we had a penalty shootout. Which it's escaping me which one that was, but
Slovenia or Slovakia?
Yes, yeah, it was Portugal, Slovenia, yeah. And then last night, which I think is funny that we postponed it the night before we're going for real this time. Last night there was the shootout between Argentina and Ecuador. So James, we just by the way, did you get a chance to see that one from last night?
I watched some of the highlights. I think it's really frustrating though, because for me to be able to watch what I'm trying to see, like the full bravado, I need to be able to see the full referee blowing the whistle. The problem is they just show the penalty itself a lot of the time. So in that one, I didn't get to see, like, I hear and I can see when, I think it was when Messi missed the penalty actually, or there was a penalty missed during the game. And it was given about 3 minutes before the penalty actually being taken. So I can see that. But the problem is, because of the way highlights work, you can't see what happens during this period unless you watch the full footage or have it recorded, which is where all the juicy stuff actually tends to happen.
Yeah. Well, we'll go with the one that you've been able to see then. Would you just be able to kind of give us a breakdown, of that shootout between Portugal and Slovenia? Because actually, you know what? Let's do this. What do you think happened with Ronaldo when he missed his penalty? During, during what's the word I'm looking for here? Just during normal time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, Ronaldo did nothing differently compared to usual. Ronaldo always rushes his penalties. Some takers, like Cole Palmer, like Ronaldo, take penalties really quickly. So the ref blows the whistle and they'll smash it in a corner. Or Cole Palmer takes them a little bit differently. But Ronaldo has always been someone who relies on his technique rather than deception. And when your technique is Cristiano Ronaldo's, it's fine 99% of the time. And to be honest, it was still a very good penalty, but also it was met by a very good save. The problem with rushing a penalty is the keeper is at their optimum state to save the penalty. So the keeper is twitchy, they're on their toes, they're ready to save it, they're fresh in the mind and fresh in the body, basically. So Ronaldo still takes a good penalty, but then All Black saves it. Now, skipping forward a little bit, but if you recall Bruno Fernandes's penalty in the shootout, Bruno took a lot longer, about 7 to 8 seconds. And by the time he takes his penalty, Oblak actually almost stumbles over his foot and doesn't even dive. Now, this is indicative that essentially what Bruno has done is taken control of the situation. And because he's waited so long, Oblak is no longer twitchy on his toes. He's no longer as fresh in his mind. And by the time Bruno takes it, I can't remember if he did a hop, skip, and a jump, but he usually does that. The keeper is so unalert and unreactive that, fine, he can try and wait till Bruno kicks it, but he's not as set. And that's why the wait is so important, because, yeah, you can score as many penalties by basically rushing and taking it straight away. But because of that, the keeper is more likely to be alert and the keeper is more likely to guess the right way, because you're not deceiving them by taking control of the situation and looking at the keeper and waiting to see where they go. You're just going, I take things into my own hands and I'm going to smash it, if that makes sense.
So if I were taking a penalty and, normally I give it a second after the referee blows the whistle, and then I run up and take the shot. So you're saying that it would give me more control over the situation and effectively kind of throw the keeper off more if I were to wait, 7, 8 seconds, right? Is it basically kind of like a straight line between delay and control?
It's not a straight line at all, because it depends on the player themselves. The player needs to regulate their emotions. So
Mhm.
some players, and it also depends on the situation. So it's so complicated. In a Euros final, a player might have to wait 10 seconds because you regulate your own emotions, which I'd say is probably 6 seconds in a normal situation. If you're breathing for 6 seconds and you're still not feeling fully relaxed and calm, then you keep going. There's no reason. There's no thing that says 6 seconds you're still stressed, just take it, because then you're still rushing. Then you're still thinking, shit, I have to get this over with. You're in control. There's no rule in the book that says you have to take a penalty after this amount of time. So you need to set yourself, compose yourself, and once you are in that state, once you're in control, then essentially you're taking it like you would in training. And in training, they score 99 times out of 100. So it will never be the same conditions as training, because there is always the pressure, but you need to regulate and rein in those emotions to a manageable level where you can execute as you would in a typical situation and your legs not go jelly like people so often describe.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I think it's like really well. So are there any advantages to just taking the penalty as soon as the whistle blows, or is that just kind of handing the advantage to the goalkeeper most of the time?
Not really. I suppose you could theoretically catch the keeper off guard, but the point is you're already waiting on the ref's whistle. So you and the keeper are waiting on the ref's whistle. The keeper's like this, the ref blows a whistle, the keeper is ready to jump.
Hmm.
And then you go, hang on, I'm not ready. I'm going to wait. Now, you're essentially creating your own whistle, because the keeper can no longer. It's like, for example, in a running race, everyone hears the whistle at the same time. Now, if you have control of the whistle, you have a huge advantage because you know when it's going to happen. So in a penalty shootout, if you're the one blowing the whistle and deciding when you kick, then the keeper has to mentally reset themselves, physically check themselves. And again, it's so minute. I'm not suggesting that it's night and day, that if you delay 5 seconds, you will score. If you take it straight away, you'll miss. It's far, far more complex than that. But it's these marginal gains which win you football games.
That's that. I'm really glad that you went with that example, because that's actually the one I was thinking about too when we were talking about this. And I think it really does apply really well. Where basically, if you're lined up with everybody and you've got the whistle, you blow the whistle first, you take off running, and everyone else is just, oh shit. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Sorry to interrupt, but to continue that analogy,
Yeah,
if you have the whistle, it doesn't guarantee that you'll go first. It doesn't guarantee that you win the race. It just gives you that advantage. So
yeah.
other people can still make up that advantage. But what you've done is maximized your opportunities for success.
Yeah, you still have to perform. You still have to run the race or take the penalty,
Precisely.
as
Precisely.
it were. But it's a nice little advantage. Um, I so Emmy Martinez, who we're all unfortunately familiar with, made a couple saves during the Argentina Ecuador match last night, and I'm not going to ask any specifics about the run up or what he did specifically, but is there a psychological advantage to kind of like building up of the lore, right? Because I think Emmy Martinez now is very widely acknowledged as being kind of a clutch shot stopper in penalty shootouts. So is that something that probably played into the minds of Ecuadorian players when they walked up to the spot?
100%. 100%. And we just in everyday life, you can envision that. You know that happens when someone has this, we use the word, but aura. Emmy Martinez, if you're facing him in goal, he looks bigger than every other keeper because you know. And also, one thing I talk about with Emmy Martinez, because he does such exaggerated celebrations, when a player walks up, they think, if I miss, this is going to happen. They're already envisioning the celebration. So that plays on their mind, which increases the pressure because they think, I don't want to miss because I don't want to face this aversive scenario. So, yeah, absolutely. And that stature that he's created for himself is obviously because of his penalty saves, but also because of everything he does around it, because of the way he bothers players, because of the way he celebrates after making saves, and because he is both physically and mentally a very, very good shot stopper in penalties anyway. So he has concocted himself, and as I say, credit to him, into a perfect penalty shot stopper. And it's so impressive to watch. Honestly, I can't do anything but admire it at this point, considering I've done so much studying on it.
Yeah. I mean, Emmy is a very obnoxious, annoying player, but it is supremely impressive how he really worked that out and been able to kind of make those marginal gains and become a World Cup winning goalkeeper. So yeah, have to give him props for that. Sash, do you have anything for James before we put a bow on this?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask James on one particular penalty taker in the Euro 2016. If you remember, there was this guy Simone Zaza for Italy.
Yeah,
Who took this
yeah.
penalty against Germany in the shootout, but he just kept like running on the same spot like he was on a treadmill until he finally decided to take the shot. What are your thoughts on that?
The Looney Tunes run up.
But this isn't functional delay. This was him. I don't know why he did that, but I think this is so that worked against him, of course, because he was not, and Pogba has done the same thing. Pogba used to take the piss with his run-ups, but the whole point is to respond to the whistle slowly, so you are in control and you execute normally. This isn't a normal execution, and they've now put more pressure on themselves because they're doing something out of the ordinary. So fine, if it works, then you can make a name for yourself and you can deceive the keeper. But in my opinion, there's no deception in that. Maybe you are making the keeper wait, but ultimately you're detrimenting your own penalty kick because the way he's run up, I don't imagine he's grown up taking penalties like that. So, as I say, you can change your penalty for the better sometimes, like Messi when you did the stutter, but there's a reason behind that because you're deceiving the keeper. Many players have done it. There's no physical advantage to doing this. And as I say, the keeper will just stand there and think, I already know. Because as we spoke about the whistle before, once he starts that run up, the keeper goes, all right, I'm waiting and I'm ready for you to take this. And to be honest, I can't remember what the keeper did, but the keeper could just stand there because he's already put so much pressure on himself. He's, as I say, it's not a functional delay. It's taking a piss in scientific terminology.
Yeah, no, it's so fascinating actually, like the dynamics of penalties, like from in a shootout versus like in a game. Like I've seen from you, James, like many times you put this tweet out where I think Odegaard pretends like he's going to take the penalty, but in the last second, Saka comes up to take it. Like I really love analysis like that. So yeah, keep that going. It's super fascinating to actually like understand a little about the psychology involved in some of these things. Like it's so complex than what meets the eye. So keep going.
It is interesting. It is. Thank you, Sash.
Yeah. No, it's I think it's like a really cool little niche in the sport to to kind of develop an expertise in. And honestly, I if we had the time, I would be pelting you with questions about it for like the next 2 hours. But we gotta let people move on to the second half of the France Portugal game, and we gotta get out of here and move on with our days. So it's been great chatting about Califiori and penalties and the mystery German player. Woo! I've been hanging out with my mother-in-law too much this week. Anyway, thanks to the 3,500 of you being here with us. We really appreciate you taking the time, especially during the Euro, especially during two big fixtures today, to be here with us, talking about the Arsenal, talking about football. So I'll have to ask you for one more favor, though, and that is please do follow James at AFCJXMES. Get that man to 100,000 followers. He's right there. Also, follow Sash at LT Arsenal. He has a bit of a lag, so it might take some time before the followers show up. But if you do, I think the lag. Sash, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay,
but
sorry.
it's so bad. Apologies to everyone for the lag today. Like, I have to understand why this happened. It's because I could hear everything that James and Sham was saying, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe
I think it's
StreamYard,
me.
maybe it's...
I think it's me because I'm not on my normal internet connection, so it might be me. I'll take the blame for that. But
Wow,
yeah,
what a
please
guy.
do follow Sash. Please follow the pod at This Week Arsenal. If you're watching on YouTube, please do like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, please do leave the 5-star review. It really does help out. It really does help put the pod in front of more people, and we'd appreciate that. And also, you can follow me at Shamsdale if you so desire. So, with all that being said, thank you again for being here with us. We will talk to you next week, probably Monday or Tuesday. We're still working that out. But until then, be a gooner. Don't be a goon. And we will talk to you soon. Now we'll roll the AI.
Maybe we'll have a good surprise for you.
All right.